moving on, we have the last thing, which is a discussion. We're going to try keeping this short, about previous video, which was let's discuss ContraPoints open worship of domestic abuser Buck Angel. Hopefully, if you're watching this section, you kind of know about this. Before I actually get to this, I should probably just note, those who just arrived or just leaving, we do not monetize videos or streams on the channel anymore, so our only income is via Patreon or Super Chats. So if you'd like to support the channel, please do think about supporting us that way. It's a really big help, even if it's only $1, $2 donations, etc. It really does go a long way to helping us. So we really can't understate just how important that sort of thing is to us. On that note, I'd also like to just thank the following patron sponsors who have been giving to us for a long time: Hannah Banghart, Matthew Kovac, Ryan Katie, Gert Van Voorst, Steve Corbin, Sosh Daniels, and Justin Allen. Your support is always appreciated. Okay, but back to the video. I remembered being like shit scared nervous when this was going out, because it's like criticizing Natalie. You know, she has managed to construct a rather toxic fan base around her. So we were always a bit worried that, like, how was this going to react? How people going to blow things up, etc. I felt the need to return to the topic again because previous response to our video cancelling had been very rushed, and in the rush I thought I need to touch on this, I need to touch on that, I need to touch on that. Everything was just sort of thrown out there, and I kind of lost sight of what was really important, namely the way in which Natalie not only openly defends, but openly worships Buck Angel, who is a domestic abuser, having abused his ex-wife Karen Winslow, now married to Lana Wachowski. And one of the ways he did this, besides sharing intimate details about Karen's sex work at the time, was by outing Lana Wachowski as trans. To be clear, Lana was at the time denying both claims that she was on HRT and that she was cross-dressing. So, you know, it wasn't just, oh, they were denying claims about cross-dressing. There was the HRT aspect as well. And Buck Angel came out, outed her on that, all as a means of hurting his ex-wife. Did you see much of the response to that, Levi? Levi?
Can't actually remember. I could look up the video and check, but I can't remember because I just had to get all the notes done for the first section and damn everything else. I can't even remember making that video anymore.
I'm sorry. Yeah, like the response from most people was generally good. Like they understood the reason for remaking the video, etc. However, there were a few people that were, as per usual, doing the normal tone policing and stuff like that. One of them in particular was user Oliver Maynard, who posted a series of comments that I did not allow through because they were quite clearly bad faith. And I'll just read through them, go through them here, because I didn't want to leave them all dispersed on the video, because one thing that can happen is if enough people repeat a lie on a video and that video isn't being moderated, people, when they often go to a new video that they might disagree with, scroll down to the comments, see if they can find like a general consensus in the comments, and then leave. So it's like, I'm kind of cautious of that, especially when bad faith is involved. Olivia started by stating that, quote, "I don't like Buck Angel and like Natalie. Perhaps this video is hurtful to trans as you claim she is. Why so much infighting?" End quote. Okay, let's respond to this. First of all, there is no infighting. Infighting would suggest we're part of the same group. Yes, we both share the attribute that we are trans, but I am a non-binary trans person, she is a binary trans woman. However, beyond that, like, we're not part of the same group. This isn't infighting. I am criticizing, as a survivor of domestic abuse, her behavior in defending and worshipping a domestic abuser. So immediately, it was quite clear that this person was being disingenuous. As for the harm my video apparently caused the trans community, again, this is just based purely on respectability politics. Respectability politics and assimilationism can go fuck off. But yeah. Then she came back with, I take issue with with your claim of being abused to attack Natalie. Getting outed by a bitter divorce and cheating scandal isn't the same as being demeaned and hit and manipulation in a place one can't escape. Nuance, please, nuance, please, and you need as much sensitivity as others. I have this same issue with Blair White, who covers her own content with the I was abused line. Using abuse cynically and politically isn't right, in my honest opinion. I talk about my abuse only to talk about how abuse itself is bad. Okay, but the thing is, I'm talking about abuse and how it is bad. Also, one thing I discussed in the video is the fact that Buck Angel didn't out Lana Wachowski immediately. He outed her 3 years later, and first of all, the story in the Rolling Stones, Buck doesn't say Karen cheated on him. He says she came and told him that she had fallen in love with Lana. The whole they're having an affair seems to have been a thing that he added later on. So that I found really interesting. So anyway, they separated in 2003. He outed Lana Wachowski whilst V for Vendetta was coming out in 2006. Let's say they had cheated anyway, hypothetically. That would still not justify abuse. Domestic abuse is still abuse even if one of the partners has cheated. In fact, many abuse victims cheat as a means of getting out of abusive situations. That's why I put focus on the change of Karen's health, because if you notice, Karen's friend, I forgot her name, but she noticed the fact that when Karen got away from Buck Angel, her mental and physical health improved immeasurably. She was eating well, exercising, living life, feeling good in general. That to me suggests that this was a fully abusive situation long before he ever outed Lana. So it wasn't just a case of the outing is the only abuse, and along with what else I go on to discuss later in the video in the article from 2014, where Buck Angel tries to assert that he owns Karen by asserting her sex worker name, which she worked under him as he was kind of the manager at the time. Asserting her sex worker name was her real name, erasing her personal identity in the process. So the nuance there comes in the fact that Buck Angel outed Lana 3 years after the divorce. So I'm the one actually including the nuance there. As for the idea that Blair White covers for her content with the I was abused line, I never covered for my content with the I was abused line. I'm talking about the issue as it impacts me because I was abused. It's a fact that matters to me. I get hurt when abusers are defended and held up as paragons of almost divinity. They're divine trans people. That fucking sucks, okay? To be in an abuse culture where you can do awful fucking shit and you'll still be praised for it, that is a terrible thing. As for how you could talk about abuse to show that abuse is bad without, while silencing others who are talking out about abuse, I don't fucking care. Next comment came up.
It's interesting.
Go on.
Sorry, it's just interesting how, Buck can do these horrible, terrible things, very publicly abuse his ex-wife, but you criticize that and you get painted as an abuser. But he's fine, but you criticize that and you're painted as an abuser, using your abuse as an excuse to cover up your behavior. Mm-hmm. It is peak abuse culture where just there's a constant reversal of victims and offenders. Mm-hmm. Yeah. Constant.
You're calling out my behavior hurts me, then my behavior ever hurt you. Olivia then went on to add that, quote, Buck Angel is absolutely trash. Natalie just isn't. Natalie seems like an intelligent, kind, and actually vulnerable person. Buck can play her like he plays others. I don't see Natalie in the sinister way you do. I feel for her. As a trans woman who has been very abused and lived in repeating cycles of abuse, I struggle to escape. I have a different take. I think this topic could have been covered in a kinder way. She is not being played by him. She is playing everyone else. The big example I go to is the alcohol shown throughout her video cancelling. People love to go, well, Natalie has substance abuse problems. Don't you see all the alcohol in her video cancelling? It's like, yeah, that's not just coincidental. She sat down as a creative mind and went, I should have different types of alcohol in each section of this video. Because why? Well, it'll make people think that the alcoholism defense is justified. It is like when a Hollywood star is caught being a domestic abuser or is caught having slept around. The very often defense is, oh, I was on substance, I was doing drugs, I was drinking alcohol. They go to rehab and then all is forgiven. It is the same defense.
Also, remember, and no, that's fine. Yeah, people are saying the alcohol isn't the point, and that's a good point. But even more explicitly, we know that Natalie is not a kind person because she has an entire video dedicated to mocking that trans woman who had a meltdown from being misgendered. Like, that's not a kind thing to do, making an entire feature-length film.
I believe it was cringe.
Cinematic. Yeah, with like set design and costuming to mock a trans woman who had a meltdown after a bad day. That's not compassion. That's not kindness. That it's intelligence, but it's the cold, calculating intelligence of a fucking predator. It's not the intelligence. Fucking disgusting.
And another thing is, alcoholism isn't a defense against domestic abuse, and it's certainly not a defense against the hero worship of domestic abusers. So, it really, she is not a kind person. A kind person would actually listen and engage with people. She didn't. You look at her response to the criticism she'd received for repeated embiphobia before. She never actually addresses the issue. She kind of goes, yeah, I had a middle-aged moment, that's it. That's not empathy. That's not exploration. That's not apologizing. That's not fixing the harm done. That is just the bare minimum. That's saying what you think people want you to say to get off. Fact is, I'm going to go a little bit ahead here because Olivia returned with the posting of my most recent video. For those that don't know, my most recent video is, of course, the one about Xander Hull, titled Xander Hull Still Abuses Victims of Domestic Violence for Profit. And she had a few words to say there. What she said was, quote, I'm not going to watch. I just hope you don't use these topics cynically and understand the severity of the nature of the claims. I have just seen a lot of abuse as topic titles from you. Childhood abuse is a serious and triggering topic. End quote. No shit. That is why I spend the most part of that video discussing the harm Xander Hull inflicted upon me, whilst trying to exploit my history as a survivor of domestic abuse to argue that, because of the cycle of violence, I must be an abuser as well. Like, this sort of disgusting approach really is just defining of Natalie, Xander Hull, their supporters, the whole breadtube scene at this point. And that's why I get posted to breadtube places like, why? I do not associate with this anymore. It's so fucking disgusting. And the idea is, oh, you use abuse in your titles a lot. Well, yeah. It's almost like we live in an abuse culture, and I'm fucking tired of it.
It's interesting because, like, there are YouTube channels out there that talk about abuse exclusively, They purport to be able to explain narcissism or whatever. And I don't think people tend to spend a whole lot of time criticizing those channels for talking about abuse. But then when you do it, it's suddenly a problem. Like, talking about abuse a lot isn't necessarily a problem. Generally, it's because someone understands abuse or thinks they have something to say about the topic that would be helpful. This never happens for any other topic. Oh, you talk about trans people a lot. Did you know that being trans is an important thing? Trans people, their identities are very important to them. You better not be trivializing it. Like, at least watch the fucking video first. Jeez.
It is quite disgusting. Another response that I didn't live through because, again, it is just loaded with shit, was one by Violet Luston, which stated that quote, and this is quite a long one. It's like, quote, "Just curious, what would Natalie need to do to stop being bad now in your eyes? As best as I can see, she's not standing Buck since the video, and even though you do not show it, she admits to doubt about his character in the video, but decides not to condemn him. She needs to condemn Buck, and then what does she need to apologize for now? She has always shown NB allyship, so she just needs to prove it somehow. How? How could you be sure she means it?" End quote. It continues, but I'm going to do it bit by bit. She's done nothing to repair the damage and the legitimacy she's lended Buck. Her fans are still lying about the whole Buck Angel situation, which is lying about Buck Angel's domestic abuse and terraforming the trans community for abusers. She has not always shown MB allyship. She's shown MB exploitation. We were a useful shield before she came out as a trans woman, but the moment she lost a use for us, suddenly we got ejected. Again, in my video, I start by pointing out that there had been repeated instances of MB phobia, completely ignored. This is why, again, this comment is not getting through, because it's quite clearly not actually looking to address the arguments I made. It's looking to create a narrative in the comments, so people turning up to the video, scroll down to the comments, find a comment that agrees with them, go, okay, I can ignore the video and leave. That's what's happening. I know they do this. So anyway, as for what Natalie can do, at this point, I'm just going to be honest, I don't think she fucking can do anything. Like, she defended a domestic abuser, and then she sat on it for a year, and she's gone ahead and she's internalized his rhetoric. The bit where she gushes and worships him and exactly what I needed to hear, and I told him, I love you because Senpai noticed me, her own fucking words, on that Senpai, by the way. She's done all that, she sat on it, she's internalized his rhetoric, started propagating his rhetoric as theory. We'll get to that in the video on Luxander and how his rhetoric, designed to gaslight his victims and the people that don't like him, has been appropriated and transformed into Natalie's video on J.K. Rowling. She can't come back at this point. She's gone over the moral horizon in this regard. She's just going to have to close her account.
There's only so many times.
Okay?
There's only so many times you can intentionally hurt people for no reason except that it's profitable for you before you just can't come back for it. It's almost like hurting people on purpose is bad and you can't always be forgiven for it.
It's like Blair White. Blair White needs to fuck off. Like she will inevitably come over and probably do, oh, I'm no longer on the right sort of shit. I mean, she's already kind of done parts of that, but no, she needs to fuck off. They all do.
We really need to normalize people online.
Redemption as a concept is purely on a personal level, so you can start feeling better. At least I've tried to fix things. It is not about keeping your position. You are not Emperor Hirohito, okay? Really obscure reference there. Those who don't know, Emperor Hirohito was the Emperor of Japan who led the massacre in China and elsewhere, pleasure women in Korea, etc. All these horrific war fucking crimes. But because they needed an ally in the East, they decided to allow him to keep his position. He was the only main Axis power that was allowed to keep his position. That's not what it's about. Redemption is you fixing yourself, not keeping your fucking platform, profit, income, whatever. That shit goes. you have shown you cannot be trusted, because just as easily as you've come to know things are right, you can fucking go back the other way, okay? So no. You apologize, you leave. Okay? So.
I really think that we need to normalize the idea of people losing their platforms online.
Mm-hmm.
Just because you have a right to be able to be on the internet and like use the internet, like in a perfect world, maybe not the right to be on it, but like just because you have the right to use the internet, just because no one can technically force you to get off of your platform, doesn't mean you should have the right to a platform just because you managed to cultivate one. There's not much we can do in terms of oversight online, since people who are doing this are just people with internet connections. Al and I are just people with internet connections. There's not much oversight you can have there.
Mm-hmm.
So what are we going to do about that? Well, we need some accountability. We need to have a thing where if people are not going to be responsible with their platforms, they lose their platforms.
Anyway,
I also need to add that it's like it's just so soul crushing to repeatedly see people 10, 20 years older than me who cannot be as responsible with like literally hundreds of thousands of dollars, hundreds of thousands of or tens of thousands of dollars, hundreds of thousands of subscribers, cannot be as responsible as me, a guy with an internet connection. Like, what is the world coming to?
Anyway, moving forward, they they try to like buy my allyship. I don't know. They're trying to buy me here by going, quote, FYI, I'm not a fan of Buck Angel. Personally, his defense of Abigail Shrier was too awful. To me, he is an interesting figure, but a highly irresponsible, self-righteous one. I also agree the Lana outing was really disgusting behaviour, end quote. Notice, I can condemn Buck Angel for his defense of Abigail Shrier, but I'm not allowed to, I'm not allowed to take issue with Natalie defending and promoting, worshipping a fucking domestic abuser. So, again, really disgusting defense. They very often throw Buck out and say, I still agree with Natalie. No, you can't do that. Natalie and Buck like that now, okay? They are like that. So they're intertwined. Their fates are intertwined. She fucking defended a domestic abuser. Fuck it. She knew he was a domestic abuser as well. She knew what was in the article. There is no fucking way she didn't read it, because she would not have gone through the effort of doing that emotional setup of like eBay and Spanish translation. Oh, let's look over there. You bad people invading Buck Angel's privacy in a public interview. She knew what was fucking in that article. She knew what Buck Angel is. And she chose to defend and hero worship him anyway. Those two are chained together now. Anything you want to add to that? Sorry.
No, I did just remember the Twitter thing. I don't know if you want to talk about that at some point.
Let's just do this. Moving
Fair
forward. Quote, to me, Natalie Wynn is a trans woman in pain. She, as she has also acknowledged multiple times, expressed how her own pain is irresponsible and hurtful. Expressed her own pain in irresponsible and hurtful ways, but I can relate to this so much in my transition. I constantly find myself checking my own judgment of other trans people as I go through this grueling process. I am struggling with using my own self-judgment on others. My own pain hurt others. To me, this is what Natalie saw in Buck's Instagram post, a reflection that speaks to what she was emotionally going through. Also, in context, when she brings up that post up, it does not come over as her saying, look at my favourite Buck post, but her literally recounting her emotional state in a moment in time, a vulnerable moment, end quote. You are responsible for the damage you cause. You are responsible for your actions. I don't know why that needs saying. Also, she was quite clear. It was hero worship. It was gushing. It was senpai noticed me. Her own fucking words. She could have talked about it differently to that, but she didn't. She chose to fucking glorify a domestic abuser. This is just flat out denial of what was shown. Don't know if you want to add anything else.
Not really.
It also, moving forward, quote, also, Natalie has been open about her substance abuse problems during the period she is being accused of causing harm here. That does not mean her actions are without responsibility, but please consider that she was very likely not in a good mindset at all when doing a lot of this. I say this to perhaps judge her going forward as opposed to her past, since she is working on ending her medication addiction and improving her relationship with alcohol. She also has self-reflected on her intentions and need to heal wounds in the trans community, for example with Dr. K of Healthy Gamer, end quote. Then fucking remove her from the situation. If she needs to heal because she can't stop hurting people, remove her from the situation, at least until she is ready. She didn't do that. She spent the year doubling down, continuing the same fucking violence, continuing to defend her actions and defending Buck Angel and worshipping him. So yeah, this is complete nonsense. I don't give a fucking shit about her substance abuse. If it doesn't absolve her of responsibility, then why the fuck are you bringing it up? She is not owed the platform. She is not owed anything. But she's chosen, in spite of the fact that you claim, this person claims that she knows she's causing harm and it upsets her, she has chosen to continue to inflict that harm. That's on her. I'm not responsible for that. Okay? Kind of goes back towards... Sorry. Go on.
I'm so sick of people using substances as an excuse for horrible behavior, or also in a similar vein, using neurodivergence or disability as an excuse for horrible behavior. The point of acknowledging that there are other factors contributing to your behavior, like substances, is not to get a free pass for your behavior, is to try and figure out what you need to do to overcome it. If you do something horrible... Sorry, go on.
I was if she actually was changing her behavior, genuinely, she was shutting everything down, going away. Okay, in hindsight, I could go, okay, she's actually trying to get her shit together. She is realizing there's an issue. She's not doing that. It's substance abuse is an ongoing excuse, and she's going to keep it around forever.
It's very convenient. Yeah, the point of saying, oh, I did this because I was drinking, is not to get a free pass. The point of that is to be okay, obviously alcohol is a terrible influence in my life. Can I stop the alcohol? Because if I'm not using the alcohol, then I'm not going to do these bad things. The point of that is people watching can be okay, this isn't something you usually do. This is the alcohol. So if you stop using the alcohol, then there's not as much of an issue here. Maybe you'll stop doing the things. Maybe you can be forgiven as long as you stay away from alcohol. That's the point of acknowledging substances. And, also for minor things, it's oh, okay, it was one time, it was fairly minor, I can forgive you, it was the substances, as long as you don't do it again. The point is not to get a free pass, it's to figure out how to fix the situation. And a while ago, I did a bit of a rant about this in terms of neurodivergence in connection with the Mystic Minds thing. Where the point of saying, oh, I did this because I'm autistic is to get a free pass for hurting people. The point is are there ways that you can cope? Are there accommodations and supports that we can use to deal with this in a healthy way? Is there a miscommunication? It's about solving the problem by either you change your behavior or other people help support you or something. It's not about getting a free pass. If you're hurting people, you need to stop, full stop. It doesn't matter what the reason is. The only reason to acknowledge the reason is that you can be more effective in stopping that harmful behavior.
I get the whole idea, you're not a bad person, you're in a bad situation, but if you don't fucking care about being in that situation, how it's hurting others, then, again, I go back to what is the archetype of your traditional domestic abuser? It's a guy that drinks a lot and throws bottles at his wife. So fucking what? He's an abuser. It doesn't matter. And the same goes for people who want to defend and worship abusers, because you are normalizing them and telling them that they still belong in society, even as they continue to harbour these feelings and do everything without any sort of remorse or desire to change anything. And no, it's just, yeah.
One thing you never hear from people like this is, I'm sorry, full stop. You never hear things like, I'm sorry, I did a bad thing. I'm sorry, I made a bad decision. I'm sorry, I hurt people. You never hear them actually acknowledge that they did something wrong. There's always a but. There's always an an if, an and. Usually they don't say anything in the first place. It's just like, oh, I just did this, and all these people are being mean to me. And like, if you can't even give a fucking apology, apologies are not that hard. If you can't even give an apology, then how can we trust you to moderate your own behavior?
Yeah. Right. Moving forward, quote, Natalie has done so much good for trans people and some harm. Please, I just ask that we treat her with respect to her intentions and consider her best intentions as well as her mistakes. I'm not saying ignore her mistakes. End quote. Yes, you are. Yes, you are. Like, literally. I am criticizing her. I'm pointing out, like, the fact that I used to fucking look up to her. I used to make fucking fan art that included her. I used to fucking run to her to let her know when I seen her jokes in places like D&D circles. Okay? I was treating her charitably for the longest fucking time. I ignored the repeated embiphobia shit, okay? But when she chose, after, like, even when Buck Angel thing happened, my only post on the matter was about Buck Angel and criticizing him. I didn't say a fucking word on her, okay? Only when she came back and decided to fucking defend him and promote him as some fucking great thing, as a trans icon, someone we should all be thankful for, on our knees, worshipping. Okay? When she chose to do that, that is when I took a major issue and I spoke out. So yeah, this is an attempt to stop people critiquing her. Because if it weren't, you'd be actually addressing the points, not making excuses.
It's very interesting how, you criticize someone and immediately their fans come rushing like, I'm not saying you can't criticize her, but, and it's like, if you were really okay with criticism, then why are you so quick to shut down something that is literally just criticism?
Mm-hmm. Like,
that's all it is, and you want to shut it down.
I wasn't abusive, I wasn't foul, I didn't misgender her, I didn't do all this other shit. I was quite level-headed in my criticism.
And most people won't even watch the damn video when they're denouncing it. Like, it's very clearly just, you do not want people saying negative things about your queen. And no amount of saying, oh, you can criticize her, changes the fact that no, you obviously don't tolerate that.
Anyway, she moves on. Quote, also, before I go there, Natalie doing good shit does not wash her hand of the bad shit she does, and she does not nearly do anywhere near as much good as she has done harm in the long run. I'm sorry. Seeing how she fucking torn apart the trans community, seeing how she's made it unsafe for victims of domestic abuse, victims of embiphobia, and people who were caught up in Buck's pyramid fucking scheme. No, she hasn't done more good than bad. She's made a few videos. Okay. And she may have led some people into reconsidering trans issues, but in the long run, it seems like a lot of those people still harbor their same abusive shit. Consider people like Xanderhol. They just like dressing it up behind the language of being woke in order to shield from criticism. They haven't de-radicalized anyone. They've got their own little private army now. That's what they've done. Moving forward, quote, you reference J.K. Rowling in the video and compare her to Natalie Wynn, but miss the context that Natalie's latest video is likely the most powerful counterspeech to J.K. Rowling's hatred in the world, based in viewership and how engaging it is, while really showing the problem. Her friend and huge YouTuber, Lindsay Ellis, also collaborated with Natalie to extend the reach of speaking against J.K. Rowling. This shows the value Natalie gives the community. Value we need more than ever right now. End quote. The latest video is bullshit. Like, it's fucking milquetoast critique. It is not powerful. And like a lot of it is spent fucking justifying the actions. As like, oh, as someone who was cancelled, I think J.K. Rowling really was just trying to do the right fucking thing. No, she wasn't. She has this bloody hatred of us, and she wants to harm us. Like, there's no fucking genuine concern there, and don't fucking pretend like they do. All you're doing is setting the entire discourse back years. That's all you're doing by that. You know, and yeah, the video itself is being used to excuse abusive behavior. As I noted at the end of the video on Luxembourg, next video I'll be doing on that series, but I've got a few other things to stop off by first, is a video pointing out how Luxembourg encouraged Zanderhal to exploit my history as a survivor of domestic abuse to argue that I must be an abuser in order to hurt me and force me to be silent. When called out on this, Luxembourg quoted Natalie's J.K. Rowling video, and I immediately saw the rhetoric in the J.K. Rowling video designed to defend J.K. Rowling and Natalie, who compares herself to J.K. Rowling. Do you know where I've seen that rhetoric before? It's the same fucking rhetoric used by Buck Angel in the Senpai Notice Me post. That's what I mean. She has internalized abusive rhetoric, and she is selling it as theory. She is helping abuse culture. Sorry about that, there was a mosquito that was coming right at me. Anything you'd like to add?
Not that I can think of. No.
Okay, we'll finish it now. Quote, I do not say she's perfect, and she doesn't say she's perfect, but I am saying she doesn't deserve to be treated as a hateful person that is against non-binary people. You don't have to like her, but please, do you also need to condemn her and ask the community to exclude her? Why? End quote. Because she worships and defends domestic abusers. Why is that so fucking hard to understand? You know, it's just fucking, it's just disgusting. Oh, why do you have to do, like, call them out and all this? It's because their fucking actions are hurting people. And that's the way things are. Yes, the pyramid scheme was called Transgasm. But, yeah, and that's really the only, like, most of the responses I got to that video were nitpicky things like wash your hair, or, you know, shit like this. I forgot what the other one was. Go outside. Like, they were just shit like this. These are the only two long draft ones that I got. I was like, I can't throw them away. But they're so fucking dishonest, I don't want to post them either. Because even if I respond in the comments, the thing about the way the comments work is you see the original comment and you don't see the replies unless you click see. And it's like, there's so much dishonest shit in here that it's just, it does not belong in a good faith discussion. They never address or deal with my actual arguments. They never actually discuss a point made. They just throw out the facts that substance abuse apparently justifies all actions. Not saying it justifies all actions, but it totally does justify all actions. But yeah. And that's it.